I am Dr.
We are both in the lobby.
Okay, so customers in the lobby and okay.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wednesday, the 15th of February 2023. This is the last UNISA Science Engagement Center's Robotics Live Online Learning session. Today we'll be focusing on M1 Unit 3 and 4, which is the continuous from yesterday's session, which was Unit 1 and 2. I really hope that you will certainly enjoy today's session. And for those of you who are really joining us for the very first time, you are very much welcome into today's session. And as you can see there on your screen there, that our email is as follows, I-SET@unisa.ac.za. And if you need more information, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll certainly get into that. Without wasting time, I'd like to say that please make use of our chat box. Please make use of your hands. Just raise your hand and then we'll disable your microphone and we'll take it from there. Without wasting time, Dr. Host, over to you. And thank you so much once again to those who are watching this repeat session or this recording. We really appreciate the time. And thank you so much, Dr. Host. Over to you once again.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Awesome. Oh my word, we're filling up very quickly here. So it's great to have everybody here. Welcome. It's the last session for February, but we will continue in March. And so you should be getting your schedules hopefully by the end of next week. Oh no, that is March already. Oh my goodness. Okay. No, that is awesome. So welcome again. This is M1, and we're going to do Unit 3 and Unit 4. And I am aware that there are some totally new participants in the session. So I'm just going to give a brief overview, and then we'll jump right into the Unit 3 and Unit 4. And so let me start the introduction just by way of introduction. Excellent. So we are the team from the I-SET, from the UNISA Science Engagement Center. And for these sessions, specifically the I-SET Robotics project. And this is about practical robotics for the coaches. And this is our presentation for February 2023. And for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, really welcome. We do actually exist. We are a science center. We are an accredited science center of South Africa. And in days yonder, before COVID, we had all this hive of activity. But we hope to start rolling that out very soon again. So M1, which we're now concerned with, is really what we've done yesterday was the basics to build and the basics to program. And today we're going to do the engineering design process, which is EDP, engineering design process. And we're going to design and build passive attachments. And then M2, which we're going to do next month, we're going to do sensors, gears, and powered attachments. And M3, which we're also going to do next month, we're going to deal with then strategy, risk, and constraints of robotics. And so it's quite a packed program. And of course, we just scratch the surface, but we're going to get there, and we're going to get there step by step. All right. So by way of introduction, we use a robotics kit to actually build the tangible robot, the physical robot. Currently, we're either using the EV3 or the Spike Prime, but the NXT is also fine. That was the original version way back in 2007, 2008. And we have explored, last week, we have explored building a robot virtually, and Casper's got some really cool ideas if you want to use Bricklink Studio or Lego Digital Designer, which has then been upgraded. To program our robots, you need a laptop, and you will download the EV3 Classroom or Spike Prime software. Okay, so we've done the building, we've done the programming, and now we're in Unit 3, which is about navigation or problem solving, and then we will do passive attachments still included. So just for completeness sake, we have a number of resources available. We've got the I-SET Robotics Live Online Learning, which are these sessions, and for which there is a schedule that goes out every month. You will pick up the schedule on one of the WhatsApp groups that we are running, or you will pick it up on one of the MOOC portals, or you will have it emailed to you if you're on our mailing list. Okay, and all these recordings, all these sessions are available on the I-SET Robotics MOOC portal or on our YouTube channel. And maybe I should have put that link in there, but just remind me, Casper. Then for the MOOC queries, you can send an email to Tumelo. He's very gracious to help you. For general queries, Anzani will help you. And the content of all these sessions is available on the MOOC portal, and Tumelo will help you with that later. And then maybe just as an overview of the massive open online courses that we do have available, I just want to highlight that it is 0 rated. So once you get onto the portal, UNISA pays your data. The site is used for research and evaluation. And so we really appreciate your evaluation to make it an even better site. We've been up and running since 2016. So we've got a lot of valuable information already. You need to create your own account, log in, and you go to membership and you have joinable sites. Currently, there are 4 I-SET Robotics MOOCs. 3 are published. The 4th one should be published hopefully by the end of the month. Then we've got an I-SET Robotics in Python, which we're also hoping maybe by the end of March. And then our I-SET Robotics and Environmental Science, we are really pushing to have that up and running by the end of February. The Cyber Safety MOOC should be published. I just need to check on that. And for those of you who joined us from the Department of Basic Education through that link, there are 2 MOOCs there, DBE 001 and DBE 002. It's all access on the portal. And if you have any questions, please join the Q&A session on a Friday at 3 o'clock. And if you need the link for that meeting, it happens every single Friday, hosted by Tumelo. Please email us and we'll send you a meeting link for that. Okay. And then just for completeness, if you need to know anything about the robotics short learning programs, they have already started for semester 1. So you're welcome to join us in semester 2. There's the components in pedagogy. There's the problem solving, data and debugging. And then those are the practical ones. The theory ones are the fundamentals of robotics, and then robotics for the future. It consists of 4 units, and each unit has 4 parts. And there are 4 assignments, and there's 1 exam, and then you have to register online, but that will be for semester 2. All right, so that is the end of this presentation. And now I'm going to go over to the discussion of Unit 3, if I can just, there we go. All right, and I'm going to again.
So while Dr. House is busy on that one, to our online participants, if you do have any questions regarding the short learning programs, please don't hesitate to send us an email. I know that the short learning programs are closing end of this month, so you can still register as well. And we had a student earlier on today that we're assisting with the robotics kit. So we are the library of coding and robotics this site. So if you perhaps are in need of kits and you don't have access to them, feel free to send us an email to come this side of the world. Over to you, Dr. Host. Thank you.
Awesome. Nothing like getting an ad in as well. Hey, Tumelo. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to ask, you can see my presentation?
Yes, Dr. House, we have hand raised.
Oh, okay, I'm listening.
Hello, Doctor.
Hi.
I wanted to ask, because I heard Tumelo mentioned the registrations are still open. Is it the one that you pay for the registration, or is it just the free course?
Okay, so I would really encourage you to first do the MOOCs for semester 1, just to kind of get a basic knowledge. And then please do register for the short learning programs in semester 2. That'll be awesome.
And then semester 2, when does it start?
June.
June, okay, thank you.
Yes, but join us now for the free MOOC 1, MOOC 2, and MOOC 3 for semester 1. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Good to hear from you. All right. Okay, so let's continue. For those who have joined us and have not joined yesterday's sessions, you're still very welcome. We just did basic building and basic programming, so we have a tangible robot and we can make it move. What we're going to do today is to say, how do we join the two to solve the problems and then navigate so the robot can actually move? Okay, so do something. All right. So if you go to M1 under syllabus, you will have a document that you can download. And Unit 3 is about navigation. Okay. So at the very easiest, the robot needs to move in its environment. Okay, so it needs to move forward and it needs to move back. And for us who are dealing only with wheeled, to start with, basic wheeled robots going forwards and backwards, that navigation is just going forwards and backwards. All right. But as we go on, as we go to M2 and M3, there might be other definitions of robot navigation. All right. And so how does it move? How would it move? How would the robot move differently if it was maybe in the air and maybe in the water? And how does a robot move if there's a delay? Say the robot in Mars is moving around and it needs to be told that it mustn't go down a cliff. So there's the whole lot of robot navigation. And that's a whole different topic and a really cool thing to kind of discuss with your class. As you'll see when we go into M2 and we start using sensor data, then you have more information about the environment. But for now, we have no information. And so we're really going to measure. We measure how far the robot must go, how long it must stop, how long it must take to come back. Okay. And so odometry is actually the use of the data to navigate. So there's some interesting topics. List the navigation techniques that you can be used with your robot. And then what is autonomous robot navigation? How does your robot know to move on its own? It's very much like self-driving cars. All right. So the whole thing of Unit 3, the focus is the thing of the process of how do you solve a problem? Okay. And really, you as the coach must realize that in your class or of learners or in your team, various learners bring different problem-solving skills, okay? But at the very core, there needs to be, how do we go from what we have to where we want to be? And so you've got to be able to map that out and figure out the problem. So you've got to name the steps. And there's always, I know it comes under different names, but there are always steps, okay? For me, the techniques are important because you modify the techniques according to what the learners, where the learners are. So I really enjoy having big sheets of paper and we can draw and we can get to grips with what we're trying to do. Color cookies, diagrams, so that you really understand rather than just talking over each other's heads, which is sometimes just a fruitless exercise. Okay, so just as a kind of a heads up, there are some activities in Unit 3, okay? Now remember, we need to solve the problem here, and we're gonna come back to it. So the robot must draw the first letter of your first name. Easy. The robot must move in a square around a shoebox. The robot must move in a rectangle around the box, and the robot must move in a circle around a bucket. Okay. So there's 4 different activities of a whole collection of activities, and we'll get back to that at the end. Say, how do we solve that problem? Okay. But just coming back now to problem solving. Problem solving is one of those 21st century skills. And I am still of the opinion that problem solving it can't really be learned. It must be developed. You need time to develop it. You need to be encouraged to develop problem solving skills. Okay. A lot of practice, and it's not a textbook. You can't just tick it, write down the correct answer. And that's the thing about problem solving. You've got to be patient with yourself, but you've also got to be patient with the members of your team and persevere to get to a solution. And kind of underlying this is robotics is complex. So you have building you've got to think about, you've got the programming you've got to think about, and the two must suddenly come together. But the cool thing is there's not only one answer, okay? There's not only one correct answer. And so you need to encourage your learners and maybe you as well as you go forward is about problems. The thing about problem solving is you're solving the problem, okay? And there's a technique of getting there. And I've kind of left a little bit of a space. And there's kind of another notion that says we use robotics to teach problem solving or use robotics to encourage problem solving. Be that as it may, I think the one balances the other one out. All right. So what is problem solving? Problem solving is about being practical, collaborative, and you definitely need teamwork. So we're going to have some discussions here in the session. It's about discovering what the answer is, and you can always twist the problem to get a different solution. So you can't memorize the correct answer, but you need to understand, and this is what you have to understand, what it actually is that you are given, what can be observed, and what is required. Okay, and then where are you going to? What is required for success? And so somebody might have, the robot's got to get to there. That's the end. And the other one says, no, you've got to get there and get back again. But of course, what you do have is where do you start? Okay, so your robot starts here. It's got to go there. Does it have to come back? How far is there? How far? All right. So you understand. So problem solving is really understanding what is the problem, and then what is success. When have you kind of got your thing? All right. So we have a little robot, and I know Tumelo's got some robots, and I've got some robots here. So we have a robot, and the robot can move. And we need to understand the basics of navigation. And the next thing down, there's lots of other robotics learning, like touch sensors, ultrasonic sensors, color sensors, power attachments, all that kind of stuff. We'll get to that, but we just need, for now, where we are, we need to understand that this robot must be able to move forwards, move backwards, turn left, turn right, reverse back, reverse right. And what is the impact of different power settings? Can you make it go faster? Can you make it go slower? And then there's that momentum thing that you've got to put. All right. So now we're going to solve the problem. And we've just got, we've only got a wheeled robot. Okay, so this is where we start. So what is given, what is known, and what is required? So let's do some problem solving. You have to understand where the robot starts, and you've got to understand where the robot ends. And what happens in between that is the problem solving, to how to accomplish what needs to happen. All right. So this is from my good friend Tanya Karp, who has, I think, like an engineer, which is a kind of methods to solve problems. Okay, so you always sketch it. I love drawing. I love drawing and figuring things out. Then we have, what are the objectives? What do you need to achieve? And then list it. What are the variables that you need to take into consideration? And then you manipulate everything to say, ta-da, there we've got the solution. All right, and there's a link to that, thinking like an engineer. Okay, so let's give it a straightforward problem. We've got to move a straight distance. Okay, so there's your start, there's your stop, and we've got to move that distance. But the robot must move forward exactly that given distance. All right, so let's observe. It doesn't specify if the robot needs to reverse or go forward. In theory, the speed of the robot should not matter. Okay. Are we programming it in rotations for wheels? Because then it does matter how big the wheel is. If you have a big wheel like that, you're probably going to need 1 rotation. If you have a teeny little wheel, you probably need 6 rotations. Okay, and then when it gets there, what is it going to do? It needs to stop. Okay. What you do know is that 1 rotation of a wheel is then the circumference of your wheel. So to make it go forward, you will need to measure the rotation of a wheel. And what I often do is I take a tape measure around the wheel and measure that. Okay, and then you put it down on a piece of paper and you can say, oh, that's how far it goes. So, and then yeah, let's have a look. So we've got a distance. It's got we measured it, 50 centimeters. I measured the circumference. It's 17.8 centimeters. Now we can calculate rotations. So now we know how many rotations we need to solve the problem. So easy. If your circumference times your rotations gives you the distance, then we can manipulate it around to say the number of rotations is the total distance over the circumference. So we need to do 2.81 rotations. That should be easy. Okay. Okay, so I'm just assuming that that's easy. All right. Now we go on to the next one. So, okay, now we've got to use the same little robot and we've got to find the relationship between power and speed. All right. So again, we've got start and end. We've got a distance and time we measure with our, in the old days we measured with stopwatches. Maybe now we just measure it on our cell phones. Okay. And can you see that if we're going to measure speed, speed is distance over time. So there's our calculation. Power level we can change. So power level is our independent variable and speed is our dependent variable because our speed depends on our power in this case. I think there's so on first hand, you would say, okay, so as we increase the power, we're going to increase the speed, yeah, and decrease the time to cover the same distance. That's how we think, but we need to prove it. Okay, we need to do an experiment. All right. So the thing is with speed, and I'm not sure the primary school learners are going to get this, but maybe the high school learners will get it because they know about acceleration. All right. So it's always good to have the robot starts before the start line, so that you measure exactly when it has a start line and when it hits the, so that the acceleration, the deceleration are kind of out of your distance. So it's traveling a constant speed for your distance. Okay. And then you need to repeat the experiment with different power levels. Okay. Then the number of rotations will remain constant though. All right. So let's have a look. So we've got distance, we've made it bigger to 1.5 meters, and the circumference that stays the same, so we can work out the number of rotations. But now we've got to test it for a 10, level 20, level 30, and then up to level 100. And then for each of those, we need to time how long it takes to cover that 1.5 distance, and then we can work out the speed. All right. So then we can get the distance, we know, is speed times time, and we know that the distance is equal to circumference times rotations, and we can turn all that around, and so we have the velocity, or the speed at a given power setting is the distance over the time for that power setting. All right, and we see the number of rotations is 8.43 rotations on the dot. Okay, and then we can conclude this. We can measure the values, and it'll be a really good example for your students to do. Take how long it takes, see how long the robot travels, and calculate the speed. And then you will be able to prove that the power level, when the power level increases, the speed increases. Okay, interesting little exercise for you to do. Okay, so how do we actually go about solving problems? Where do we find the problems for the robots to solve? Okay, so the one thing is, there are if you do robotics challenges, there are always problems. There are always missions on the challenge that you need to break down and understand how do you do it. Okay. Luckily, there are building instructions, and luckily there are programming examples. There are also a lot of online tutorials, and then there are YouTube videos to solve problems, and we'll get to that. I think there's a whole lot of problem solving again in M2, and we'll unpack that there. Okay. So just and I'm kind of stopping at this for a few minutes. There are a lot of examples of how they've used robotics to teach or develop problem-solving skills. And so I've just added this, for example, and I would love to have some South African stories. I would love for you to share your stories. Maybe we can brag a bit. These are all international articles, and maybe it's time we also start publishing articles. All right. Okay, so the other end of problem solving is when your robot gives problems, when your robot itself is the problem. Okay, and this is Mr. Hino has got some really cool examples of what could go wrong, could go wrong. And you as a coach need to be in tune with what possibly could go wrong. Okay, and it's straightforward things like the wires are not in the correct ports. The robot is not, the battery pack is not charged. The wheels are not attached properly. You can go on and on using the wrong program. Okay, so kind of as encouragement, please watch some of these videos because you as the coach need to have firsthand, you need to know how to solve these problems for your students. Okay, all right, so back now to solving activities. So how must your robot then draw the first letter of your name? Well, kind of if you have to analyze it, well, to draw, you need to have a pen. So you're going to have to attach a Koki pen to the side of your robot. And how must it move? Well, it must move to the letter of your name. So if you're doing an L, it's actually easy. You do a short L, then you turn it 90 degrees, and then you go up. So that is easy one. The S is you got to go around the curve and round the curve and round the curve. So that's the S. But now the challenge is for you to actually do it. So I'm encouraging you to try it. Okay. How must the robot move around a square? So a square is the same length. It must move, say, 2 rotations, stop and turn 90 degrees, 2 rotations, stop and turn, 2 rotations, stop and turn, 2 rotations, stop and turn. Okay. But when it comes to a rectangle, it's a bit different because it's a short length. Say it's 2 rotations and then 4 rotations and then 2 rotations and then 4 rotations. Okay, we're going to have some examples now, just in case you think I'm just talking. Okay, and then move around a bucket. Well, a bucket is circular, so the robot must actually just go on a circular motion. Yes, you can go square round, but that's a square tube in a round hole. No, we need a square peg in a round hole. No, you must just go round and round and round and round and round your bucket. Okay, so those are the different activities that you can solve with your robot. And we want to, I'm really encouraging you, find some really cool examples. And if you've got some videos, I think the dictionary is nearly done. No, the dictionary, yeah, I have most of the letters of the alphabet, but if you have a letter that you want to add, please submit it to us as a YouTube video, just your robot drawing that letter, and then we'll put it all together as soon as we have capacity, and we'll put it all together as a video to say the alphabet by the robots of South Africa. I think that'll be cool. But now to take it a little bit further, if you have a team, say, of learners and your school's name, I don't know, whatever your school, say there are 4 letters in your school's name, let one robot do the first letter, then the second letter, the third letter, and then put it all together to advertise your school is presenting robotics. That's also an opportunity. It would have been really cool if we'd had a whole lot of robots writing Happy Valentine's Day. Although that's quite long. Okay. But really about navigation, your learners need to get it right. Going forwards, going backwards, stopping in between when they change direction because of momentum, turning left or turning left, turning right, reversing left, reversing right. Okay. Exciting stuff, but we can only solve these activities if you've tested your code. Build a robot and test your code and share your videos with us. All right, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to just stop sharing and I'm going to stop and ask whether there are any questions. Any questions? Or shall we just continue? I think we have a little bit of time. Tumelo, do you have any robots moving there?
Yes.
You do? Okay, so hopefully these robots are going to behave.
Definitely so. So I don't know whether can you see the screen there?
Yeah, perfectly.
So this is the wind turbine. So the robot is supposed to move forward and turn right and push here on the wind turbine so that the energy units may fall and the wind turbine can start spinning here. So what I'm going to do is to start the program. The robot needs to turn it back, then move backwards. So after that, it must get back to the.
Cool. Can we do that again?
Definitely. So initially here, when I program this, I'll also show the programming as well, so that everything that you explained makes sense. Yeah. The robot moves forward, then it turns, then it moves, then it starts to turn left. As you can see, then the robot will turn back and go back to this. That's the first one. And then the second one here. So by the way, this is a super powered challenge. The second one, it's a watch television. So here, the robot will be required to push these guys here, and the energy unit to be stored where it's supposed to be for them to watch the television. So now what's going to happen? I've programmed the robot, and these are very simple and basic types of programming that anyone can do. So you can see that new sports, and people are able to television, and the robot goes back to base. There's another challenge again. So like I said, this one, it's called super powered. So now I'm going to Cargo Connect. So here on the Cargo Connect here, what I'll do is just a basic challenge. So here, I am required to push the cargo outside. There we go. So my robot will be required to move straight and then turn the other side. So I don't know whether you'll see clearly. Let me try to bend the network. There we go. Start, move, then it turns, then it moves the cargo, then it takes a reverse, then it turns, then it comes back to base. Was that clear?
Perfect. Well done.
Then another mission here, second last, it's just the basic time, is to move the cargo into the circle. So moving it into the circle here. So now,
Just finding your program quickly.
then it moves, then it turns, then it turns back.
Perfect.
You see that so the aim here was to push the cargo into the circle just by moving from that side. Thank you.
Thank you. Tumela, do you want to share your code for these programs?
Any other questions?
Do you want to share your code?
I don't know whether I'm here. Did you hear me, Dr. Foles, and
Perfectly.
all the participants?
Yes, thank you. Do you want to share your screen and show some of the participants your code that you
Come again?
used?
So sorry, my speaker was on mute.
Okay, your code. Will you show me the code that you used? Just so the participants get some idea of how you coded these problem solving.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
So this is very simple. So here I use the EV3 software. I'll go to the watch TV, in fact, the wind turbine. So for the wind turbine, what I did was simply to set my speed to 50, which is the general speed. Anyone can even change the speed to whatever speed they want to. And I ensured that I set my movement motors, B and C. So these are the ones here. Can you also see me on camera here? So these are my motors, and they are connected on motors B and C. This is what Dr. Hoos explained yesterday. And then I moved forward for 2 rotations, as you saw earlier on. After moving forward for 2 rotations, sorry, I had to turn. So because I wanted to turn right, I had to disable the right motor, and the right motor is port B. So I ensured that port C is the one that only moves. So port C had to move for 0.7 seconds, then it waited for a second. That was when the robot started to move forward for 2 seconds and backward for 1 second, up until those energy units fell and the wind turbine started to spin. When all was completed, it had to wait for a second. And then same thing, I had to move port C, which is my left motor, for a second. And then it had to move backwards into the base. So this is basically what Dr. Hoos has been explaining in our previous sessions. And as you can see there, after when I'm done, I had to set my robot to stop and exit the program. Now, when it comes to the television one, the watch television, that's a very basic one. Here, what you have to do is just to set the speed, set the movement motors B and C, and I had to move forward for 3 rotations, and then backwards again to the base where it was found. That was for superpowered. Now, when we go to the cargo connect, where I had to move the cargo outside. So now here what happened is that, oh, it's not this one. Let me share. It should be this one. Yes, this one. So now the interesting part here is that here you need to do a lot of trials and errors. So you need to do lots of practicing, because I feel like lots of people find it difficult to, try all these programs, but it's very simple. So as you can see, and it's very easy, again, the nice thing to explain the program here, because the movement has been set to, the movement speed was 50. It had to move forward for 2 seconds. And then now, here's an interesting part. Remember on the previous program, it had to turn right. Now this time when it turns left, I had to disable port C and enable port B to move for 1.5 rotations. And then had to wait for a second, then move forward by removing the cargo out, and wait for a second again, then move backwards for 2 rotations. And then now I had to use C in order for it to move backwards back to the base. So this is basically it, unless we do have any questions from our participants. This is very easy. This was just a continuous from what Dr. Gos was explaining to us earlier on. Thank you.
I think, Tumelo, what you can also add is that for the robotics challenge, there are a whole lot of missions. And so the team needs to choose which missions they're going to do.
Definitely, yes. And I feel like on our next sessions, we'll touch on that one. And there's something that I've noted as well on the EV3 classroom that I would like to share with our participants. Yeah. Can I?
Yes.
Thank you. So here on the EV3 classroom software, okay, let me just open a new tab for those of you. So if you would like to open a new page, this is the first page that you'll see. It will say when program starts. So now here, if for example, you might have lost this by mistake, you can find it down here where it's written undo. It's just there on the bottom there. And then if you want to redo, you click on this other arrow. I hope you can see that one. And then that's undo. If you cannot find this, here's an alternative. You can either find it here on events. When you click on events and you say when program starts, you can drag it and that's where you can find it. Now, for some teachers, I had them saying to me that how do we zoom in and out? Everything is there on the bottom. So you can simply click on that part. This is when it starts zooming in. And then this is another part where you can start zooming out. Or you can just go to the default settings. Now, because here it says connect. I don't know whether you can see my mouse case here. It says connect. That means that my robot is not connected either by Bluetooth or by cable. So when my robot is connected, it will turn red. So what I'll do, I'll just connect there. Immediately when I connect my robot, it will simply turn green. When it turns green, that means that my motor is connected or my brick is connected. And you'll also see a tab on the top right indicating that your brick has been successfully connected. Now, the interesting part about this, when you click on it, you see I've named mine Tumelo. And you can even see the battery power here. And another thing for our participants is that when you have learners, sometimes they will program everything nicely. And then when they start ensuring that the robot moves forward or backwards, the robot might not move forward the way they wanted it to, or the robot might move the other way around. This is where you can come and check the settings. Remember yesterday when Dr. Ho said I must explain to you and show you where the ports are connected? So here on this part here, for example, if I was to remove port B, it will show that port B is not properly inserted. This is where some of the challenges that you might experience. That is why it's very important after connecting your ports using the cables, there must be this sound. Immediately when there's this sound, everything is connected correctly. Another thing is that if you want to rename the brick, if you have lots of them, you can click on rename EV3 brick, and that's where you get the function of renaming it. Another part is that it's very important for us to rename all our projects. For you to rename the project, you just simply click on those 3 buttons and then click on rename, and then you give it a name. I think for more information, we can take this further. Thank you so much, Dr. Host, unless we have more questions.
Casper, are there any questions?
If anybody has a question at this point in time, please feel free to either raise your hand or use the chat area. Okay, I see we have a hand. Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Tabile, feel free to unmute yourself. We have noted your hand. Tabile Ngodi. Okay, we see that Tabile Ngodi is struggling with the microphone, yes. So I suggest that perhaps you type your question down.
Okay.
And then we can take it from there.
Okay.
And I will take it.
Okay, I see.
Sfiso, your microphone is unmuted. You want to say something? All right.
No.
I see that we don't have a hand here.
And the only question we had in the chat so far was to share the link. So I've shared the link for the EV3 programming and for the Spike Prime programming software.
Awesome.
We will share later the recordings of today's session and yesterday's session will be available on a YouTube channel by tomorrow afternoon at the latest.
Thank you, Casper. Thank you so much. Okay, looks like Tabile is not winning with his microphone.
Any other questions from our participants? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I see your hand is still up, Tabile. Please unmute yourself if you can. If you can't, you can go to the chats. Tulani, your hand is up. Tulani Mtembu.
Hey, how are you, Tumelo and Dr. House?
Good, we're very good.
Thank you.
Cool.
Just it's not a question, it's just a token of appreciation. Thank you for nice explanation. I understand what you're talking about. Thank you, sir.
I'm glad. And
Maybe
I think for, yes?
Maybe Tumelo, you can ask, is there anybody who was with us in the January workshop in the hub who really struggled with the programming? Could you make it look so easy?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's maybe the setup or the atmosphere was too high, so they did not get it that much. And I'm planning on our next sessions, I'll do comparisons of the both, the EV3 brick as well as the Spark Prime, so that I clarify most of the confusions that one might encounter during the classes, so that it's much easier. But when you understand the technicality of the software, especially using the EV3 classroom, it will be very easy for you to go into Spark Prime as well.